Guys, Bad Publicity back with another mechanics episode. We're rolling right along with this stuff. Joined by Corey and Hollis.
Hey! Hey, guys.
What's up?
And we'd all like to remind you that if you haven't checked out the Patreon yet, patreon.com/Bad Publicity.
It's somewhere, like, in these... One of these directions is where it is located.
Hollis, you were supposed to work on a jingle. Did you get it yet?
No. I haven't worked it out yet. Give me one more week, and then I'll have a jingle ready.
All right. That's it. Challenge is thrown. 1 week.
1 week.
I can't even... What rhymes with... You have to do... Dun, 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 go to Bad Publicity.
Yeah, that's so, like... What rhymes with publicity?
Oh, you have to city. You have to. If you think about it like Eminem, where Eminem breaks a word down, so you just instead of rhyming bad publicity, just rhyme the city with the end. 80.
Okay.
Right? You never
All
seen
right,
that?
sure,
You never
that-
seen
yeah.
that Eminem talk where he talks? Everyone says you can't rhyme words with orange, but if you break orange down in syllables, then you can. And he does that.
God.
No, you guys don't know who Eminem is.
No.
All right.
I know.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Let's move on. All right, so
Oh,
we've
man.
given everybody enough time to go to patreon.com/bad publicity, and they're all back now. That's what that time was for.
Yes.
Guys, today we're going to talk about the another mechanic, and we have picked Psi. So Psi is described as this. All Psi cards involve a silent bid between a corporation and a runner. Both players secretly spend 0, 1, or 2 credits, and then reveal the spent number of credits once they have both decided. If they spent the same number of credits, the runner wins. If they spent a different number of credits, the corporation wins. And then the effect of the Psi is resolved. Fair enough? Sounds pretty good?
Yeah. Seems good.
It's okay, you know.
It's okay. It's okay. So, Psi is very interesting of a topic because it's got that. It really has a big love-hate relationship in the game. I think everybody at one point in time loves Psi until you're trying to steal the winning future perfect or pass that last caprice, and this is a do or die bid. Where if you win this, you're stealing that agenda. If they win, well, they're scoring it out next turn. And that's when everybody walks away and you either love or hate Psi games.
Yeah. It's the truth.
But it does, it's not as random as it used to be. People are really starting to figure out how to calculate and play the Psi game. And it's even used in a different sense where you're taxing out the... One player can use it to tax the other player. If you have a lot of credits and someone has a future perfect in the archives, say, well, you can just run it a bunch of times and, get them to spend credits until they only have a set number, and then you'll be able to, steal it if they have 0 credits left. So Psi is an interesting part of the game. Do you guys think it's relevant in this current game state that we're in right now? Or why don't you start with also mix in how you feel about Psi yourself? Hollis, I'm gonna start with yourself. Tag.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, got you. But all right. My personal opinion is that in the beginning of the game, man, I felt both of you just took a drink of beer at the same time. I'm late.
You're not allowed to. You get sloppy.
Yeah, you're right.
Focused.
So, in the beginning of the game, there wasn't a lot of ways to sort of maintain control of the board on the corp side once the runner got up and going. So we had cards like Ash that were fantastic at making sure that the server was was very well protected. But even though Ash is an excellent card, for protection, the fact is that once runners are at a certain end game, the amount of money that they're gaining at the end, the fact that they're full breaker suite or small breaker suite in the current case of the meta, handles most threats, means that if you're trying to score using a remote, it's very, very difficult. And I think in the case of, especially, we'll get to it, but the biggest side card, the best side card, in terms of that, it's kind of a unique ability in the game because it takes away the element that's kind of predictable about the game. Whereas I get breakers, I get money, I run, or I have money, I put ice, and this is just simply attacks. It changes it so that, hey, sorry, this is a sort of unpredictable amount of variance. You can use in-game information to sort of help you with determining what you should bet. But at the core, if I have 50 credits and you have 50 credits, it's random. I mean, there's not really, just because I have 50 does not mean I have to bet 2, and just because you have 50 doesn't mean I have to bet 2, right? So it is a blind bet. I think that in the case of like the decks that want to be glaciary, I think it's a decent mechanic. I don't doubt they could have accomplished the goal without having Psy. But I actually don't mind it as much anymore. And I think that's partially because we just have answers. And that's all I really have to say about it, really. So I give it a thumbs up.
That's at the end, man.
Out of order.
Everyone just shut it off now. Oh, man.
Tag me in.
I don't.
Which side?
Got him.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of Psy. I live in Techie, and I love the Psy game, and I love messing with the runner. Right now, I feel like it's dropped off a whole bunch as far as effectiveness, just because you don't see things like RP, which was big with Psy, and then HB Glacier, stuff like Food Coats, has really dropped off a lot. You're seeing a lot more fast advance, and those type of decks don't really utilize Psy that much. But in its heyday and building up, I think it's still a relevant mechanic, and it's still solid. And, I mean, to kind of piggyback a little bit off Hollis said, it is one of those ways to break up I definitely know I can get into your server and get this. It's one of those little surprise where, like, well, now you have to factor this in. Maybe I can still keep you out. And I think having cards and stuff like that also helps the corp a little bit with the runner feeling like they've got all the tools, they've got all the answers, they can get in. Yeah, it's fun. It's cool.
So if you look at the breakdown of what we have working with and how this was introduced, I really think that this was a great mechanic, how they've unleashed it across the game of Netrunner. You look at when the core box came out, there wasn't any Psy games in it.
Right.
So it wasn't until we started to get into the first cycle that we saw 2 pieces of Psy, and those weren't heavily utilized at the time. I'm talking about Snowflake and Bullfrog. From there, we've seen it ramp up, and we've seen some very, very powerful Psy effects, and the 2 big ones at the top, might as well spoil them now, are Caprice, Nisei, and the Future Perfect. Right? Those Incheki decks heavily relied on those 2 cards. When RP was in its prime, what you were doing was taxing the runner out through the ID effect of RP, replicating perfection, and then trying to minimize their credits or control the Psy game a little, so maybe they only had 0 or 1 credits left at the end of a heavy run, and you surprise them with a Psy game, and then you could just bet 2 and kick them out, or you're able to win the Psy game and force them to rerun that whole server again and just keep taxing them down. So that's where Psy went hand in hand with the taxing style of decks.
Yeah, RP was one of the original soul-crushing corp decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, was Caprice Nisei one of the first cards that broke the game? Was there a controversy before Caprice?
I mean, I don't think anyone really cared about the Psy game until Caprice, because there were cards that existed before then that had the Psy, and it was always like, oh, that's cute. It's not consistent, whatever. And then when it got to, you can do what now? You can you can just end my run. I'm in here and it's done. Then that started to get people to start like paying attention more to Psy, and then seeing the powerful effect and stuff that it had.
So the original Netrunner itself, and this is where probably doing your homework is going to shine a bit. And I can't say myself that I'm a homework kind of guy, but I know when Lucas gave this mechanic the spit shine, it took some of the randomness out of the original Netrunner and kind of fine-tuned it into what we have as Psy games. Do you guys remember what the original mechanic was? I you know what, I honestly can't remember off the top of my head.
I know what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was roll a d6 if I recall.
I was leaning towards the roll the die kind of thing.
Yeah, it was you rolled a 6-sided dice, and I think they had to roll a 6.
I know. Maybe chat help us out.
Maybe
Someone
chat will help
knows.
us out.
We'll see. We could Google it. The Googles.
Hollis is on it.
Yeah,
So
I'm trying my best.
Hollis,
So
Google.
So while he's hacking the Psy game, I will say, just to add a little bit to it, as one of my favorite things that's developed, especially when the Psy games first started, are people's different strategies and methods of playing Psy games. Because you have some people that'll actually like analyze and think about what's going on. Some people that pretty much just have like a number they tend to always throw, and then the die rollers who just let it go random no matter what. It's just really interesting how different players have different ways they want to play it.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone has their own method when it comes down to that nitty gritty there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you my method because I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, I can't give mine away. Everyone's got their own thing. I'm pretty consistent on both sides of the table on what I do, which is funny because like my local players have grown to do that, so now I have to like change it up a little bit.
They're forcing you to change, damn it.
Yeah, they're forcing me to mix it up and not stay, but I have my reasons for certain things I bid on both sides. So
Hollis,
stay true to yourself.
How's the Sherlocking going?
I've got one card that is, I think, similar to Batty as an example.
Okay.
So, now I'm just going to read this out loud because this just has something similar that's kind of random. It was a card called Blink. It was a 5-cost program, but it says like roll a die on a 4, 5, and 6, break an ice subroutine. Otherwise, suffer that much net damage. Use this ability only once on each subroutine during each encounter with a piece of ice. So it's sort of like the runner had a program that sort of mimicked Batty on himself if you try to break with this program, because it's a 5 for 5, it's pound for pound, and in old Netrunner, that was like a really big deal. Like having the same strength as the red cost was a really big deal.
If we get to that state, I would have been out. Everyone that I know that knows me up here that I game with knows that I can't roll dice for shit. I mean, if I'm at the craps table, it's best that you bet against my bets, and you will walk away quite handsomely. I'm just, I think that rolling a die adds too much randomness into a game of skill and cards like that. The Psy game can still, it can still be that mind game just enough where there is an element of control and abilities to read board state. Like how many times can somebody bid 0, or how many times can they bid or use credits in a Psy game before they're just broke and can't do other things. So if you can read the board state, I know it's tricky for some of these newer players coming into the game right now, because some of the veterans, like I've said, have had time as Psy has been slowly introduced, which I really like. They haven't bombarded us with, they haven't shoved Psy down our throats.
Right.
So I'm quite happy with it, and I do think it's a relevant mechanic, to finally come back and answer that question.
Yeah.
I like how I believe the count is 13 cards in the game are Psy cards, and when you look at what our card pool is in total, that's a really good ratio.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, you've also got the ID that works off side cards.
Right.
So there's some really cool like thematic stuff you can play around with.
And I think that they have weighted the cards, like the influence level. I think they've been weighted very well. Well, the dominant ones at least. You look at Caprice being 4 influence to take out a faction. Marcus Batty, he's 3 influence. Those are the primary ones that you're probably going to see out there. And that's, again, where I like to see this mechanic. I don't really like to see it on the ice. We can get into some of that later on, but I like to have it as an upgrade or an asset that's going to sit in the server.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, especially when you play it on like events and you trigger it that way, like you're kind of already making a little bit of investment on some of them. For some of it, I like it on small, annoying pieces of ice. The big reason why I love Snowflake, because you can take the gamble, or but it's actually like really good strength to cost ratio, and so like some of those pieces of ice is just at an annoying level where you're just like, I don't want to risk losing this side game and like wasting a click on this run, but I also don't want to pay this money and break this stupid Snowflake. So.
And I did finally, guys. I know I've been quiet for a second.
There.
I did finally find the card. It was called Rio de Janeiro City Grid, and the text on the card said
This is relevant to which one? Batty?
Caprice Nice.
Oh, this is the one. This is the Caprice. Okay.
Yeah, this is the card he drew Caprice from, or I guess the idea of Caprice came from. It was a 1 res 6 to trash cost, and it said upgrade, and it said roll a die whenever the runner passes a piece of resed ice during a run on this fort, on a 1 in the run. So for every piece of ice that you pass that's res. So whereas Caprice is, the conditional is you pass the last piece of ice on the server. Whereas this card was every res piece of ice, I always roll a d6, and if I do roll a 1, the run just ends. I basically have to not roll a 1 ever. And again, I think what's sick about this is that in the current game of Netrunner, I could see scenarios where basically you're putting in very, very cheap ice, right? Like a card like this existed. Scenarios where you put in very cheap ice, very easy to res, like vanillas and, ice walls, whatever you have, and just get 6 ice and just say, you know what, let's just play a game. Let's just find out. Let's just find out if I roll a 1 here. And I mean, at that point, it becomes kind of ridiculous. But then we switched it to where it's, well, here's a tow booth, break the tow booth, and then try to beat this game. I mean, I think they're both kind of annoying to deal with, in my opinion. So
yeah, but I'm a bigger fan of staring deeply into my opponent's eyes as opposed to just rolling down.
I agree. You see the fear in them.
That's right.
Because they know they need that. They need to win it to win.
But that's the stuff that Legends are made of, right? When you see like the plays at Worlds.
Yeah, Dave Hoyland.
Yeah.
Whatever that. Oh, that was so awesome to watch. It was. Yeah, it was good.
Someone has to win that many side games in a row to eventually take a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys, going into the next question here. As we've already said, so this is to recap, this is a relevant mechanic in the game. So we're all on board that the game needs this little sprinkling of some kind of randomness here. Do you think we need more or less of this mechanic? So I've already just said that there's about 13 cards, not including the ID. Okay, 13 cards that utilize the psi mechanic.
Mm-hmm. So I will opt for more, but in moderation. So I mean, I think
that's along the lines of what I'm going to say. I was going to let you guys go first, but
I think if they keep it at the level that they're introducing it, they're fine. Like you maybe see 1 or 2 pieces every cycle. I I think that's good. That's okay. Because also things will rotate as newer stuff comes out, and it'll kind of keep the Psy pool around the same number of cards. Once we reach critical mass Psy.
Hollis.
Yes.
Yeah, more or less.
Oh,
Come back
no.
to us, buddy.
Tag in.
Okay, so here's my problem with the current amount of Psy that's in the game, right? Like, I think it's that there are so many that are like garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I agree with Corey that like there's a certain amount of Psy that we can have where the game isn't busted or broken or ridiculous and we're comfortable. Like, and I feel like we're pretty much at the level now. I kind of feel like where there's enough maybe good Psy cards. I think we just got one that probably not playable. It's a unique option to have for Jinteki, I think. But I never want the game to be flooded with like that kind of variance, because it can negatively impact the game in a really big way if too much of the game is random bet 0, 1, or 2, and the other elements of the game that they've created become irrelevant. But there are some pretty bad Psy cards. I think I'd like to see definitely a few more like really good ones that aren't Bullfrog or Snowflake. And then if we move past those and we get, in addition to Caprice and Batty and Future Perfect, if we start seeing additional answers to Psy items like we have seen, which is what, in my opinion, what's balanced it, right? Like, I think they can make better Psy cards. I think they can make a high strength piece of ice that is a Psy card, that's a Psy ice, and isn't utter garbage like the last one we just saw. Well, I can't remember the name of it. What is the name of that new Psy card with like the hand?
Is that Up a Yoga? Or
Epa Yoga, yeah.
However you say that. Apologies if that was butchered.
I know that not all ice can be good, but like
sure.
You pay.
You pay.
God.
You pay. Like, I know not every piece of ice is going
Up
to
in
be
yoga.
You pay, you go.
But really, the card is like basically the card says like everybody gains. Like, that's what the card does. Like, if I used Mimic, I could easily break only the second sub and then gain 2 from the first sub.
On a strength 4?
Is it strength 4? Well, I mean, I guess pair with Data Sucker, but like,
okay, yeah.
That's what you're using your Data Sucker counter on. Oh man, this is not looking efficient.
Yeah, it's just like it's nuts. It's so easy to break, and then you're gaining money right back. It's like, what is this? And not to mention, I might even just let the second like Psy game happen. Like,
but I mean, there could be good subroutines that might be able to trigger off of.
maybe.
But the thing is, it's probably going to go into a subroutine that has you playing another Psy game because it's going on a piece of Psy ice.
Right.
So,
Can it infinitely loop itself?
I was about to say, like, if you had another one out, could you just keep bouncing back and forth?
Probably.
You have to end it. I
But-
hate infinite loops.
Yeah.
Hollis, did you have anything else there? Or
No, that was it. I want a few more better Psy, but I
Yeah.
think that we're at a good amount.
Yeah. What's with the snowflake hate, man? I don't get it.
Do we need more? So I was gonna take the cheaters way out of this question. Do we need more or less of this mechanic? And you guys kind of both touched on it. Do we need more? No. Do we need less? No.
Too wishy-washy.
I think, and I agree, as you guys have both touched on it, that Psy has been distributed among the cycles, I think, very nicely. Because it's such a annoyance factor, to come down to that, to play that paper, rock, scissors, and have things depend on it. I think that you don't want to overload on it, like you said, Corey. But like Hollis said, I think that they really need to clean up some of them. We don't
Yeah.
need to, don't be splashing Psy when just because you're like, whoa, we need a new Psy game one. Let's throw out, something like the Bullfrog or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
some of these other ones that we're not seeing. I'm not too much of a fan of Mamba.
Yeah, Mamba
That,
Mamba was always like a. I played a Nisei, and it was a good like one of, but that's it.
to me, it's just the initial strength or the initial cost to res. It just doesn't balance out because I'm already paying so much to res, and then now I have to spend credits if the runner doesn't break those subroutines.
Yeah.
So it's really costing me a lot to do work on. But that's that's for a discussion later on in this episode. So I will say that I don't have a straight answer to if we need more of them. Obviously, I would like to see more come so that way we keep the balance, but at the pace that they've put. But the ratio that we're sitting at right now, I think, is a good number to kind of keep at in the size of the card pool. That's my convoluted answer.
Yeah, sounds good.
Usually now we break down which IDs work best with this mechanic and which IDs should you avoid building with this mechanic. I really don't think that we can pinpoint ones to say what you should or should not include Psy games in. The only one that I would say to avoid Psy games in is it's custom biotics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You
Sure.
probably should avoid that.
Yeah.
Right, so that's the only ID that I think would not work. For those people that are scratching their head right now, custom biotics is the HB one that you cannot include Jinteki cards in your deck. So that's the inside joke there that
Nice.
all the
I mean-
Psy games are in Jinteki, so it has no place in a custom biotics build.
You just lose the game immediately. It's like you sit down and you
Yeah.
scoop up immediately.
Right.
What just happened?
Yeah, your opponent's like, I don't understand. Trust me.
Yeah.
I should have read the fine print. Like, what? What?
But I think Psy has a place in all of them. Like we saw we saw Caprice put in most every deck.
Yeah.
Or
And that's
or
for influence. People were paying it.
yeah, or try it out, and it wasn't just a one of. People were heavily using that in those HB tax decks, and we obviously saw it inside Jinteki alone. It had a place in Wayland. It was I saw some people try it out in NBN. It didn't obviously stick there that heavily. Maybe a one-up to protect because of the low ice counts in NEH. I saw people sporadically do that, and it's not a bad call per se, but it's not the best.
Yeah, it's probably better use of influence than NBN.
Yeah, but NBN is probably the one that you're gonna steer clear of because it's not. Psy is not helping you in their overall agenda or their overall color pie scheme, as Hollis would say, because they just want to fast advance out agendas. They're not really looking to protect them. They're looking to score them in one turn now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
Basically.
What do you guys
Oh.
think? Like obviously then Nisei, but I mean Nisei is not even the first one I would go to, right? That's just an added bonus that they threw an ID out there that is Psy related.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really cool, and I think especially now, it's getting more and more value as far as the effect of that ID ability because you're seeing more and more cards you can trigger that off of. RP is definitely a big one. I mean, again, just because it's tax on top of other taxes that the runner can't necessarily automatically win. And so that's a really good one that just kind of grinds them down.
Hollis.
I feel like, I mean, any Glacier deck at all, right, can handle the
Yeah.
Caprice. And I think that you could even go the route of saying a card like Cerebral Static. No, not Cerebral. No, Cerebral Cast. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Cerebral Cast could work in any deck that wants to be all in on the kill. It would not honestly surprise me at all to see if HB ever got a card that took advantage of the runner being tagged. It would not surprise me at all to see like a brain damaged, deck in HB that, moved in Cerebral Cast just to make sure they either took the tag or they took the additional brain damage to keep piling those on, since brain is definitely an HB color pie, if you will.
That's an underutilized card there, eh?
I kind of think it is. I know that there was a moment in time. I want to say maybe around 2014 regionals season, where you had a lot of a lot of people outside the U.S. There were, man, I think the guy's name is like Cecil, but he won a tournament using a Jinteki deck that focused with Cerebral Casts and Scorch. And the plan behind it was, take a brand and take a tag, and either I win now or I get closer to winning as the game progresses. Okay. And his strategy was pretty simple. He would just Cerebral Cast you, good luck on the Psy, all right? Cerebral Cast you, good luck on the Psy, and then, shuffle him back in with Jackson and repeat the strategy over and over.
Yeah.
I mean, after so many Cerebral Casts, what are you going to do?
But, thinking about it, it'd be an interesting play in some of these NBN decks that are really tag heavily now, right? Like we've seen that style of NBN coming where it's really tag punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at a situation like this, and I know it's a little more like, I don't know if this is more or less a better tagging mechanism than like a subroutine or a trace, or say on a piece of ice that has a trace subroutine.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I almost think it could fire the same amount, right? Like you're giving that person a chance to either beat the trace, you're giving that person a chance to break the subroutine. This way, you're like, hey, if tag you or take a brain damage at the end of it, and maybe it's that same, or maybe it's better. I mean, it'd be something. It'd be something to test out for sure. But I mean, if you're playing a tag me deck, and they're gonna be like, I'm not taking a tag, I'll suffer the brain damage. Well, I think you're still like, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. You're giving the runner two not so great choices
in that style of deck, and I think that's maybe that's something that needs to be looked at.
Mm-hmm. It's cool. It's a cool card. I know for a little bit too there was that, what was it, like that Endless Appetizers IG deck that was just like recurring Cerebral Cast over and over.
Oh yeah.
Just kept playing it against you. So it is one of those cards that if you just keep getting hit with it over and over again, it will grind you down.
Yep.
So.
There's the synergy that we saw very often during like last year's regional season was HB Glacier with Baddies and Itchy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you effectively just set up a scenario where if they run third click or fourth click, the scenario is now, all right, we play a betting game. If I win, I trash that Sentry Breaker, and something else is getting trashed also, and it just ruins the board, just wrecks the runner's board.
Yeah.
If it works.
Yeah. Nowadays, one of my favorites is Batty and Cobra. Oh, I love that duo.
It's gross.
Sweep the leg.
Sweep the leg.
So, did you guys think do you think that's about right? Like, Psy can be used kind of almost anywhere, right? But obviously, there is going to be some that heavily favor it. But I wouldn't strongly come out and say don't use it in this deck or this, faction.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree.
Let's talk about some of the better Psy cards. And we've already kind of touched on the two biggies, are Caprice and the Future Perfect. Which one do you think is the better one there?
Caprice.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that too. Caprice
Yeah.
was number one on my list just because the versatility of it.
Yeah.
Did any did anyone not put Caprice as their number one,
Yeah.
or would not make
No.
it? Okay,
No.
I didn't. Yeah.
Caprice, and then straight up, because Jinteki kind of needed it at the time. They needed a good 5-3, and Future Perfect did it for them. So that was my number two. And then
Was also my number two.
yeah, and and then pretty much number three was harder. I was flipping back and forth between Marcus Batty and Psychic Field, but I kind of really wanted to give the edge to Psychic Field.
That's really funny because those are the same two cards I bounced between. I gave the edge to Batty just because I feel like there's definitely more decks that will play that. But I think Psychic Field is an amazing card and really close to taking that number 3 spot.
Yeah. Hollis, did you have anything different sitting at your number 3? We pretty much know the 1 and 2 was Caprice
and Future.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Did you have them in that order too? Did you say was Caprice your? Would you say
Yeah.
Caprice is your number 1?
Caprice number 1, the Future Perfect is number 2, and actually Corey and I have basically the same list. My number 3 would also be Batty, and just like him, it's really hard to not do. It's really hard to not look at Psychic Field because in the current meta, when we talked about this, I had the current meta in the forefront of my brain. And I thought about it, and I was like, man, every deck is asset spammy, and everybody is running wizard and checking, and this is so disgusting. Like it's so rude because they're gonna check because they know they can trash for free. So when they check and trash for free, and you go, well, hey, I guess you're playing that good old good old side game. It's just so rude. It feels so rude. And I just like the card. In general, I just like it. I just do.
Yeah. In Anarchy, you could always just soften the blow with, hey, maybe we'll trigger all your I've had worse than hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Draw your hand right back up, right?
Right.
It's fair.
Had to lose that chronotype though. Like
Yeah. One of the ones that's interesting, that I'm really intrigued to see what people develop with is that dedicated neural net. That's a very intriguing card to me. I don't feel like it's been out long enough for people to really play with it and see if it does anything. But there's some really interesting interactions and stuff with it that I just wonder how it'll turn out.
Yeah, that is a little.
It's a weird card.
I think it's really interesting. I don't think it rivals the Psy game and the ability that would trigger off a Future Perfect.
No, not at all. But
And Jinteki is in a weird state where they have so many 1-point agendas that they have the option to include that it's almost sometimes you're like, man, this would be a good card, but now it takes a little bit of setup, right?
Right.
yeah. I mean, if you do like the Mushin start, it's not a bad way to just try to get it out.
Yeah.
I just think of all, like, of course there's, like, the fantastic, like, oh, you lose a side game, here's a snare, or here's some garbage. But I always think of, like, it's bad but funny if I just kept giving you, like, a product placement or something like that. And be like, oh, here's something really dumb. Let's get some money. just to annoy it, just to really grind. Anyway.
Yeah, it was really interesting because the cycle that just finished off, the Moonbad one, we saw 4 new Psy game cards come. So you had that dedicated neural net. We had the Chitana. That was the Century one. 4 for Strength 3. Maybe this is where you were getting confused before on the strengths, Hollis. This one is the Strength 3 that can be brought.
Okay.
The runner gains 2 credits. So this is the one you're talking about.
Yeah. That's what.
You and the runner secretly spend 0, 1, or 2, reveal spent credits. If the runner spent a different number of credits, do 1 net damage for each card in the runner's grip. So we saw that one, and then you had the you pay Ugoa.
You pay. You said you pay,
no.
you go.
Ogoa. Secretly spend 0, 1, or 2. Reveal spent credits. If you and the runner are different, the runner loses 2 credits, and then resolve subroutine on res piece of ice is the next one. And then the last one is an interesting one. It's the voter intimidation. Yeah. It's an operation, gray ops. You and the runner secretly spend. If you spend a different number, trash one resource.
But the runner has to have a agenda in the score area.
Yes, that's the requirement there. So
that's a cool card.
Yeah, I mean,
again, it's really new, so it hasn't really had time to kind of
flush out.
Yeah, to sit in the meta, but I think that card has potential.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a way to trash a resource. They just have to steal an agenda. So it's only cost 1, and then whatever you pop into the side game.
So
it's neat.
Is there any other ones, like, would you guys make, do you want to add to the list of top ones while we're sitting on this? Throw out to some honorable mention ones. Maybe Cerebral Cast is honorable mention.
Yeah, I mean, Cerebral Cast is definitely up there, honorable mention. And I think also it's another one that's going to have more potential that'll open up.
Yeah.
Are you honorable mentioning any barriers?
Nope. Don't say it. Don't you do it.
1 to res, 3 strength is really cost effective. I mean, do you want to pay through that with a Crowder every time to not play the side game?
No, I don't have to because no one plays it.
I think.
Well said. Well done.
I think my problem is that it gives you.
Corey, you know my directive beats that for 2. I have to spend 2 clicks to jump that.
Yeah.
My issue with Snowflake is that the runner can, just like all side games, which is like the crunch of side games, right? The runner can game it. Like if the runner is content in trying to, cost you money and you're not running a particular ID that's really good with the side games.
Yeah. So like in Nisei Division though, it's like their pop-up window, right?
Right. Actually, I actually think it's. I mean, in Nisei Division, I'm actually okay with it because
I think everything changes when if you're gonna say you run it in Nisei.
Yeah. But outside of that, it's basically the runner goes, I run, bet 0. What are you gonna bet? Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, I mean, I'm just hemorrhaging like a credit every time they make a run. It's like I've lampreyed myself.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
So are we okay to say Cerebral Cast was probably the last of that tier so far?
Yeah, I think we've kind of
All right, talk about some of the not so good side game cards and. Like we started with the last one, it's also maybe add into the discussion how we would maybe fix it without, saying redo this card totally.
Sure. So Hollis, what's your least favorite side game card?
Funny enough, it's not my number 1.
Okay.
It's my number 2. It's actually Feature Perfect. That's my least favorite one. And the reason why is because it's simply defensive, and there's not a. Whereas we have answers now, right? Because the panic before was we didn't have answers, whereas we have a lot of answers now for like councilman, political operative, and
film critic stuff.
And drive-by. Film critic is the answer for Feature Perfect, but the problem is that it's whereas you have like a councilman or a political operative, I think is a lot more versatile. Film critic now, since NAPD has gotten extra influence now, film critic is almost exclusively now for the Feature Perfect. Like I don't know what else I use. I legitimately use my film critic for because I can't think of any great agenda. 9 times out of 10, the only time NAPD is getting hosted on film critic is if it would make my credit pool too low for me to bounce back with other econ. Mm-hmm. So if I'm at 5 credits and I see the NAPD, well, I guess it's going on Film Critic now as opposed to me paying the 4. If I have 10 credits, yeah, I'll probably pay the 4.
Would you host an Explodapalooza?
I don't know.
Do you think it's worth them getting the money, or you spending the extra clicks and denying them the money?
It depends on the board state. I agree
with that. I think that's the best way to analyze that.
Right. Like if it's early and I don't see an astro score, their money's low. Yeah, we're gonna film critic that, right? Because I don't really want to give them a burst to get back in the game. I have the advantage now, and I can maybe that 2 clicks I can spin now because maybe it's going to take them longer than the 2 clicks that I'm sacrificing to gain the money to score, perhaps. If they had a ton of money and they had already scored an Astro and I hit it, I don't know. I don't care. I guess I just take it. I mean, and plus all NEH is running Mumba Temples anyway with, Shimmer from Sansan. It's almost
Yeah, with their it's all fake money.
So,
Yeah.
so which card are
that's
you
your-
talking
that's-
about right now?
So that's
You
your
saying-
least favorite Psy card to play against is Future Perfect. And now what do you think is the worst Psy card in the game? Your
Like
pick's
garbage.
the bottom run.
Oh, the bottom tier?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Bullfrog.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's Bullfrog. It's pretty
I can justify Bullfrog. I've already said because Bullfrog was probably my number. Well, Bullfrog was my number 2, but I still like
Mamba.
Mamba.
Yeah.
The problem with it is I just can't get over the res cost.
Yeah.
I think
bit.
that's what breaks that card so much. Right, you're looking at a multi-subroutine piece of ice, right? Century, or sorry, multi-typed ice. So it's Century, Psi, AP. It's 6 to res. It's a 4 strength. Now the subroutines on them are okay, right? Do 1 net damage, right? So that's fine. The next one
Yeah.
here is you play the Psi game to then put a power counter on it, and the power counter can do a net damage. Use that ability only during a run. Now, to me, I would just rather have or try to score a House of Knives if I'm going to do that. Same
Yeah,
thing,
or-
right? During the run, I can use the one of the 3 counters that are already come with it and be on the way.
And when you just rather this be a Sarugi.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're going to pay 6 credits for a Century,
I think
it's only a strength. It's a strength 4, so yeah, it gets around Mimic. Sort of, not really, because if they have a data sucker, I don't know. Yeah, it's
yeah. It's like ew.
okay. So Mamba is your pick.
Mamba's
And what-
Mamba's my top one. I don't like it. The way that I would maybe tweak it to kind of work towards fixing it, and this is just these fixes are just off the top. There's no play testing involved. Maybe there's a reason why it's 6 because they thought it was, too powerful in some kind of balance alternate
They hate
universe.
snakes.
They're all Dr. Joneses.
Yeah.
God.
I just think that the cost is too heavy. It's got to be a lower cost there because, the runners can just use that to their advantage and force you to pay more
Yeah.
in the long run. I don't want to invest heavily in a subroutine like this.
Yeah.
Like if that was a trace, after I've already paid 6 to res, I wouldn't be boosting a trace on that. It'd be like,
Yeah.
trace 2?
And it's like you're firing that sub after spending that money, and you still may lose
Yeah.
the side game because then the runner's just like, go ahead, spend your 6.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm gonna bid 0. You're gonna keep pumping more money into this,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
to do
Right.
1 net damage. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason to bid 1 or 2 if you're the runner for
Right.
that one, really, right? You're just like, you just spent 6 to res it. You probably want that to fire.
Right.
There's 2 credits you're spending.
So gross.
So-
That's my number 1.
Cool. And so, what's your least favorite piece of Psy Ice to play against?
Oh, my least favorite to play against.
Yeah.
I would have to say least favorite to play against would probably be Caprice. I just think that she's so powerful. I can't tell you how many times during crucial matches I have whiffed at multiple chances to steal agendas because of Caprice.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fair. Fair. We've all been there.
Yes,
So,
yes, we have.
it's not unfamiliar. Right.
But you know what the other strange thing about that is that I don't think there's anything I would do to change that card.
Yeah.
You cannot adjust the trash cost of that. It has to be 1.
Yeah.
The res cost being 2, I think it sits very nicely. And then the side game and the ability is perfect. The influence, perfect. I mean, I think overall it's a well-designed card, but it's just so annoying.
Yeah. Good thing it's unique, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even change that aspect of it.
Yeah,
Needs-
no,
it
you-
need-
it
that
has to
also
be.
needs to be.
Because that gives you your other out, is you could then just change focus and
Yeah.
try to
and
pound
have
up
them
your servers.
move it.
Yeah. And if you see them maybe
Sure.
installing multiple places, you try to force them to res and
The one you
trash
don't,
the other.
yeah. Corey,
Oh,
worst. Not to play against, your worst.
Just worst.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
my pick, Bullfrog was close, but I went with Clairvoyant Monitor.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah. I am
That's also
not a
good.
fan of this card at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it came out at a time, and I think a big reason why it's hard for me to even want to try to give it more of a shot is because it came out at a time where Yogg was huge in the meta, and it's just like, hey, that's cool. Just keep giving me 3 strength code gates. These ice might as well just have nothing printed on them. I might as well just spend 4 credits. Welcome the runner into your server. And so, that,
Right? Because you know just to add to that, even in the perfect world, right? You have this in your opening hand and it's the runner has a clean board and you can put this down early in the game, you probably don't have nothing to advance anyway at that point, right?
right.
And then by that time, when your board state is developing, you're getting something going, then they're like Yogg, and you're just like, well, I didn't really get any use out of that now.
Yeah. And it's like, yes, it has an in the run, and for Ice that's cool, but I feel like 9 times out of 10, if you want to end the run Ice, you're gonna go with. Go ahead, Hollis. Snowflake. Yeah. It is
Snowflake, something
much-
that is unique as you are.
Thank you, James.
There you go.
yeah.
Snowflake should have been unique.
Yeah.
Should only be able to have
Oh,
one
man.
snowflake.
And have the special trait.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just keep making it worse. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Let's just do everything we can to make it even worse.
Or maybe each snowflake is different, right? So
Oh,
you
wow.
can have 3 copies of snowflake in your deck. One is a barrier, one is a code gate, and one
Uh-oh.
is a century.
And you know what though? What you just said is amazing. I think they definitely missed an opportunity. Even if they didn't change their subtypes, they missed an opportunity to actually make every snowflake when you get 3 copies, each one to be unique. The same card text, same type, everything, but they're all unique. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
That would have been a cool opportunity. Oh man. Now I'm mad because I like that idea and the card is great. Oh man.
Yeah. Anyway,
What's your worst to play against?
Future Perfect.
Yeah.
I will say it's super annoying, especially like if you makers or legwork, you do one of those like burst multi-access cards, and then you hit that Future Perfect, and then you're just like, damn it, now I gotta work even harder to try to get this, and it sucks when you lose, but the trade-off is the feeling when you win that side game is amazing. So it sucks, but it has a really great payoff if you get in and you snatch that agenda. but it can be so demoralized, especially when you're trying to get those last points, and that's what you keep hitting.
So let's move and talk about the bullfrog too. I think this one needs to be touched on since this is an early game one, and maybe they were still trying to find their design space when they were pushing this one out.
Yeah.
But bullfrog is 2 influence. It is a code gate, deflector, psi, 3 to res, and it is 4 strength. So it is a code gate 4.
That's good.
That's
The
good.
magic
That's
number.
good.
Yeah.
This thing is going to psi game. If it's a different number of credits, you move Bullfrog to the outermost piece of ice protecting another server. The run continues from that new position. And the runner is technically now running on that server.
What would have made this immediately better is if it made the runner run, but then they couldn't jack out. Like, it gave them something where, like, yes, the bullfrog has moved you, but now you're stuck in wherever you've gone. Like, you have to either encounter the next thing, and you can't jack out until that.
Yep.
Yeah,
And-
at least one more, right? The runner
'Cause-
must encounter the next one.
Right, because now when you move it, the runner gets to be like, nope, I'm good. And now you moved your bullfrog over here. No, I'm never coming back. This bullfrog is retiring in this server.
Yeah, the previous server you moved it from is now one less ice
Yeah.
down.
And what hurts, like, if you look at like Suzanu no Mikoto, right? It fits a similar, like, it's not a side game, obviously. Susan? Yeah.
Yeah,
Looking at Susan, it fits a similar space where it's shifting the runner now over to a different server, but it has a stipulation that the runner can jack out and they can break any subroutines on the ISONET server. So if we're cutting the cost, like if we say, all right, the cost for this card is 4, is it 4 Bullfrog?
3. It's 4
3.
strength.
If we're looking at, if it's 3 res 4 strength, but it's conditional because of a side game also, so that means that technically the effect can not trigger even if they don't have a breaker for it, right? You would think it would be fine to make it like a chum, or not chum, excuse me, similar to
thinking like-
Susan, where basically it's like you have to encounter Inazuma. That's what I'm thinking.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, similar to make it like in Inazuma, where it has the added effect. All right, you're going to be moving servers. Bullfrog itself doesn't really do anything except move you to where I want you to go. Also, I get to move him to where that server is free of cost. So, in order for him to gain effectiveness, really he's got to be somewhere that isn't the server you plan to run. So, I don't know. He fits a very niche like area already, and then not having his ability do more and still be conditional, inherently because it is a side game, makes it so bad. In my opinion, it's so bad because of that.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Jameson. I think this was one of the very early ones, and I think they were filling out their design space for this card. And at some point, they were like, "Hey, this is kind of fun, Jiteki Mind games." Yeah. But then, players said, "Hey, you know what doesn't win all the time? Jinteki Mind games." It's funny. It's funny how the mind games aren't winning like consistent, strategies that aren't a random bet, always do. So,
I was just thinking it's funny too because you think about wherever you move it to, you're probably hoping in the best case scenario, I'm going to move it to a piece or a server that's already protected by a couple ice, 1, 2, or 3, or you're trying to move it to a trap or something.
Yeah.
But you think if you move it somewhere, then it's just costing you money later on because now it's going to cost you 1 more to install the next piece of ice over top of that one.
right.
Right? So it's going to just be weird, man.
Yeah, you just move it to your server and with self-destruct, and then you just blow the server up as soon as you get the runner there. Then you're just like, sacrificial bullfrog. Here we go.
Yeah.
This is all it's good for, just to put fireworks in its mouth.
Is it good for protecting your last central from an apocalypse run? So you just move them away from that server.
Here's here's a fun scenario, and this is what this is my favorite conversation about like Jinteki. So like and Bullfrog, specifically the Bullfrog interaction. So I go
Perfect.
Mushin. I'm Mushin a card. Yeah, I'm Mushin a card. It could either be an agenda or a trap. Doesn't matter. Roll a dice. Pick one. Pick which one it is. So you make a run, and all of a sudden, Bullfrog triggers, and I move Bullfrog over to that server, and you go, I jack out. Okay, let me tell you what's happened. Number one, I haven't really done anything, because if it was a trap, I just deterred you away from the trap, because you're gonna go, oh, that was a trap. If it's an agenda, I'm not confident I really deterred you away from the agenda, because chances are likely you weren't going to run a 3 advanced card in Jinteki anyways. Like in Jinteki, any card that's advanced is already scary. Like why and not only that, let's add to that. Let's ante up here. Why would I move the runner to the agenda? I'll tell you why. Jinteki mind games. Because apparently, when you move the runner directly to where they should go, their rationale will be, yeah, this is actually, this is a good plan. Like I guess I won't continue. Which is the case. But like, in my opinion, there's better ways to do that, right? Like, there's much better ways to do that.
Do you know how Jinteki mind games work, Hollis? They work like this, and it's one of two scenarios, right? If you install a trap, they won't run it. If you install an agenda, they will run it.
They will run it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you spend 3 clicks installing 3 cards, 2 of them traps, 1 agenda, you better be damn sure they're grabbing the agenda out of it. So,
All right. All bullfrogs in my deck, and we're just gonna move you.
If you bullfrog to a trap, they ain't touching it. If you bullfrog to an agenda, someone's gonna be like, all right, fuck it, I'm going.
yeah.
There is.
I've got 8 cards in hand.
Yeah, who cares? Let's go. Let's go. What do I have to lose?
Oh, Future Perfect installed. Perfect. Literally perfect. Like, thank you so much. I thought it was a trap. Woof. Got me. Showed me with those Jinteki mind games. Like, but that's not the way that works. Like,
Yeah, I think that was a good points that you hit on there. They Bullfrog, you think it's cool. You're like, oh, I can move them around, and and remember when it came out, like the biggest thing was all let's Bullfrog some whirlpool action, and get that whole Jinteki mind games fun stuff going on. But realistically, this is not worth it.
it games itself.
That's my straight top wireless for you there.
If you oh my god, my brain just exploded. Guys, my brain has exploded.
Yeah, I can
So,
see.
You have Bullfrog on HQ. I run Bullfrog to click 1. All right, I don't even break it. We play the side game. You move me over to the remote, and I'm like, I don't know what I do here. I guess this is kind of annoying because you put it in front of like a Komainu. And so then I go, well, now I run the Bullfrog again, play a side game. I guess you're moving me back to where I want to be, huh? Like that doesn't make sense. Like,
Do you have to run the Bullfrog twice?
Yeah, in that scenario, you have to run the Bullfrog twice. But basically, you can force the Bullfrog you can force your opponent to move the Bullfrog again. So even if the first plan worked, you can say, got you this time, I'm going to actually pay a credit, so you have to move him. Because you bet 0, I bet 1, move that Bullfrog somewhere else. Thanks. Like, it's silly. Like, it's all silly. I don't know. That's why it's the bottom of my list. It's on the bottom.
Yeah.
Snowflake is more playable. Said no one ever. Like, that's the first time I'll ever say that. Only time I'll ever say that. Ever.
But
Snowflake did what it needed to do. It introduced. It was a basic mechanic to the game.
It still does what it needs to do.
in the right hands.
Oh man,
guys, is this mechanic a pass or a fail? You are in the school of Hollis. We need a verdict on this test.
If there's ample answers to the mechanic, it is a pass. If it is
So-
their answers, it's a pass.
Is there ample answers?
So do you feel there's ample answers?
Yes, we have a lot of them now, right?
Yeah.
We have
Now I do.
drive by. There's another blue one that isn't the new one that just came out. Drive by and no, remember wrong.
Yeah.
Never mind.
You,
It's just
you, yeah, it's just drive-by.
Yeah.
And then of course you have political operative. Don't think of the gun. The
Oh yeah, that's what it
Smith
was.
and
Yeah.
Wesson.
yeah. But-
I probably made a lot of people angry on that one. But yeah, we've got the answers now to de-res it, trash it, kill it while it's not rezzed also, right? And expose it. So that being said, most of the best cards that are like operations, assets, we can look at and try to get rid of that utilize the PSI Mechanic. And then of course there's a way to handle the single PSI agenda, or no, we have two PSI agendas. There's a way to handle the best PSI agenda that we've seen to make it easier. So as long as there's just like anything else in Netrunner, as long as we have an answer, mechanic is fine. Just about what people play in their deck now.
Yep.
Mostly. It's fine.
And
So just to recap, that is a thumbs up from
Yes.
Professor Hollis. Freeze frame.
Yeah. Thumbs up.
Corey, what do you got for us here, man? Passing or failing this?
passing it. Account siphon's also still a thing, and that's another way to get around Psy.
There you
'cause
go.
You can always guess what they're bidding when they have no money.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely, it's a pass. Especially, yeah. I mean, Hollis already touched on it. There's so many other tools now that help to get around it. So you have a lot of options if you absolutely hate the side game of playing with a lot of tech cards to combat it.
Yes.
I think the mechanic is a pass. I think it's always been a pass. I think even in the highlight of the Caprice days, it's even though that we didn't have as many answers, I think it's still a fun mechanic in a game. Like at the end, at the end of the day, we're playing a game, and the Psy makes it like again, like let's go back to the Worlds game with Dave Hoyland, where so much was riding on those Psy games, and when you're watching those games and they're bidding and for that, you know, those few moments when you see the camera shot and the two hands come out and the reveal and you have to like look and you're like,
Yeah, like,
oh, he won it. What? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember the whole room, you know, everyone's in different pockets watching it on, you know, either laptops or little screens or their phones because they couldn't they couldn't really get around the game table. But the room was going nuts with excitement.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes those random elements where you don't know what's going to happen, where nobody knows, right? Like I can see your cards, I can see your cards if I'm watching a game, but I don't know what you're going to bet on a Psy. And from a spectating thing, I think it's great. From just having that little bit, it's not really randomness, but I call it randomness. Having that in the game, I think it's good for the game.
Yeah. I mean, watching that game, I agree, like 100%. Like the excitement, and so even as a spectator, like it adds just so much tension to the match.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know, it's just awesome.
You almost hold your breath,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You almost, like when you see, like when that we talked about that Hoyland game when you watch it. Like I remember, I was one of those guys on my little screen, and I was just like, "Oh man, here, this is for the game. Oh my God, he got it! Wow, he Jinteki Mind Games worked. Jinteki Mind, like it's like he got it." And then
Yeah, I remember you missed the next three plays. Like after you were losing your shit all around the room,
Yeah.
you have to come back and you're like, so what happened? What did I miss? And I was
Yes.
like, oh my God, man.
I lost. I was like, I can't believe he got that. That's crazy. And then I walked around telling him, "Did you see that bet? That was whoa!" And then it happened again. And at that point, I just ran around the room. I was like, "This is nuts!" Like
He was in his head, man. He was in his head. He was
Yeah.
living inside there.
playing with my
watch-
mind, Charles. No. So good.
Like that
yeah.
makes that makes all the little kids out there that are watching that and looking up to Dave just go home and practice Psy games against their dads, and you're 1, 2, oh, 0, 0, yes, right there. People getting their Psy game on, right?
Oh wow.
Excellent.
God, that imagery is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's how kids practice. Make sure you practice. Makes perfect. I got nothing else to say. I'm side out.
Yeah, I think we've covered it.
Yep.
So if,
I do agree.
if we secretly bid 0, 1, or 2, if it's a difference, we'll end the episode. I bid 1. Did anyone bid 2? Is this too cheesy now? Is this
I don't.
time?
Yeah, I don't think 3.
Well, I just dropped my money, but I did have 1.
I do actually have the means. I have bottle caps. I have the means to do this.
I lost it, man. It's under the desk somewhere. I just told you I only have 1 coin. So I only have 1 token.
Oh man, this is already going poorly.
Yeah.
See,
So that's the wink wink nudge nudge. Don't bet 1, so we can end this.
always bet 2 is my motto.
Oh, your cat's out the bag.
No.
They'll never do it. They'll be like, no. He
said it on that episode one time. He's just mind gaming me.
Oh, he think he's got me. Oh no, he really bet 2. Oh no.
Oh, not Straight Talk Hollis. On Straight Talk Wireless.
All right.
Cool.
Guys, thank you very much for making it through that little bit there at the end. If you've listened up to this point, thank you very much.
Yeah,
if you're
thanks.
a patron donator, thank you very much. If you have any kind of subscribe on our stuff, thank you very much.
Yeah, and if you absolutely despise and hate the Psy game, thanks for making it to the end of this episode.
Jeez.
We are going to catch you next time on another episode of Bad Publicity. Hollis, take us out with that jingle.
Whew, I said next week, man. I wasn't ready. Oh my gosh.
Done.
See you guys.
Yeah. Nice.
He said, take us out with the jingle, and I literally stopped breathing. I was like, next week, bro. No.
If you're
Include
not
that in the
good,
show notes. Be like, next week's, here's the topic. Hollis, don't forget that jingle.
That jingle. Oh my god. Goofy.
if you're not good at Netrunner, don't you pity. Join us now for Bad Publicity.
I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. Oh my god.